Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Thatcher and Darren Doctorman, the Weirded Beardos. Well, welcome again. Yes, it's us. You have chosen wisely. We're back again. You didn't pick those other Beardos. Except no substitute. Only the real Weirded Beardos. Thanks for joining us again after a couple weeks of being absent. We have a good show. We have a good show for you today.
Very good show. I'm very excited.
As opposed to usually, we have a fellow that I've been trying to get on this podcast for a while. We're gonna hang with Dr. G. See what I did there?
As the kids like to say of today, we're gonna hang.
We're gonna hang and rap with him, Mr. Dana Gould, who will be with us in a minute. But first, Kirk, how are you doing? How was?
I'm good. I'm in the middle of rewrites on this thing I'm working on, where you have different factions of the production all giving notes that contradict each other. So,
good.
Rewrites with people who don't write.
Awesome.
And it'd be great if everyone blew up in the middle. And you're like, well, we got to have everyone live to the end. Well, what if the romance, the guy doesn't actually want to? He can't be creepy. Okay, so he doesn't want to get the girl. No, he wants to get the girl, but he can't act romantic because that's creepy. Okay, it's that kind of stuff. But it's fine.
Awesome.
They're very nice to work with. So, and they actually listen to my pushback. So,
well, it's better to have
in the middle of trying to buy a house. So.
Yes. Well, that's an ongoing thing, and I wish you all the luck with that.
Thank you.
Because
how are you?
I'm good.
You're traveling a lot.
I enjoy it. Luckily.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're going to the cars, pressing the flesh, shaking the hands, meeting the fans.
Meeting the fan. And it's great. I love doing these things. I never would have imagined I would be going to conventions and talking to people and doing stage panels, and it's just a whole different. It's different than I expected, but it's all good. And I last weekend, or now I guess it's 2 weekends ago, spent a great weekend with Mr. William Shatner in Ticonderoga.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, and he's awesome, and I can't believe that he is the age that he says he is, because it's
he's only 70.
He's a liar. He's a liar. He was actually
he's only acting
when he did the original series.
He's only acting 96, 98. What is he?
He's only 94. Give him a break.
Speaking of actors and people,
yes, acting, actors, writers, comedian, ape. We have
a learned orangutan. Yes.
The lovely and talented Dana Gould here with us. Let's bring him in, shall we?
Thank you.
And there he is. Welcome.
Hang on. I have a photo of me with a beard.
Oh, there you go.
There.
See, there you go.
Well, just leave that up, the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. I can clutch cargo it.
Yeah, you can animate the mouth.
Dana, you are somebody that we have. The Venn diagram of friends is almost a circle, and I think I've met you at events like 72 times.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, between Darren and Frank Dietz and Janet Varney and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Probably 70% of the people we know. So anyway,
you're the guy with the beard.
Yeah, exactly. I look. Is that that bearded white guy? He's kind of overweight and that guy.
And a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah. I was fascinated by Darren, what you were talking about, hanging out with Mr. Shatner. My father is also 94.
Yeah.
And God bless him. He's crazily healthy.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But he's the antithesis of Shatner. Like Shatner, from what I understand, and him, I don't. He's a shark. He's got to keep moving. And that's what gets him out of bed. My dad, just the opposite. He gets up and he watches Westerns on a station called Grit.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
the only time you hear him talk is at the end of the show. He'll say the name of the show. So if you're in the house with him, at the top of the hour, you'll hear, Bonanza. An hour will go by and you'll hear, Rifleman. And then an hour will go by.
Nice.
Now he's announcing it to the world. Just this is what I want.
And that's he said something to my wife the last time we were visiting. He lives in Massachusetts, and he said to my wife, it was the 14th of whatever month we were there, and he said, tomorrow at noon the month will be half over. It's like, this guy's marking time.
Yeah. Did he
Can't argue with him.
Did he recognize the second as the halfway point of the year?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but it's so funny that he's still so, healthy and alive, but he's the antithesis of Shatner. Like, I get the Shatner thing.
Right.
Like, I'm that way. I'm out of bed every day. Height of the pandemic, I was up at 7:30, had on a belt. You had a to-do list.
But see, you have to wear other clothes other than a belt.
Not during the pandemic, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What are you talking about, Darren? The weather's always pleasant. Yeah.
Coming through.
Why are all of these people around me just wearing belts? I don't understand it.
Wait till you wear the Sansa belt. I have a question. So, speaking of your father and the fact that you've had a rather illustrious career in the business of show, was there anyone in your family at all in the arts or anything, or were you kind of like a lot of us? You're like, you were not the black sheep, but the weird sheep.
Yeah, no, I was the white sheep of the family. I have Marilyn Munster syndrome. I have everybody. I'm from Massachusetts. I have 4 older brothers. I have a younger sister. It's all cops, telephone company people.
Right.
Just real men. Even my sister is a real man. And then I was the weird.
Yeah.
The fruitcake.
Yeah, they did. It's funny because I didn't have any interest in sports, hunting, or fishing.
Yeah.
They did. My dad did think I was gay and couldn't square the circle of a non-hunting, fishing, sports heterosexual.
Because it just doesn't make sense.
Not to them. No, not to them at all.
Nor to me.
Yeah. Nor to my live-in male lover.
I was going to say. Also, all the guys you were boning, but that was, that came later.
That has nothing to do with anything.
No, it doesn't mean I'm gay. Just like having sex with men.
And then I moved to San Francisco when I was 21 or 22.
Yeah.
But even still, it was like by that time I'd had girlfriends, and he was like, "Don't come home gay," which was, it's its own issue.
Wait, what years were you in San Francisco?
87 and 88. And,
okay, so I left about 85.
Okay.
Did you ever do they had an improv troupe up there that met at the old Spaghetti Factory? There was.
I know the Spaghetti Factory, but I didn't do that. I get there for the stand-up comedy boom that was happening there. Yeah. And but it was he literally said, I will use the quote that will give you an example of the world I came from. As I was leaving, he said, if you're thinking of coming home queer, don't come home. And it was like, have we met?
Right.
21 years, you'd get a hint.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you were just really good at hiding it.
It was a different time. Okay. We call him Gran Torino, which is basically, if you've seen the film, that's him, and that's what my brothers call him. Where's Gran Torino? He's home.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's
funny. You decide to go in the business of show, and you started in stand-up, is that right?
I did. I started doing stand-up about 2 weeks out of high school. I went right into it, and I still do it. But
I know.
I picked up some other skills because I didn't want to watch the gray hairs come in at the comedy condo.
Yeah. Who were your comedy idols? You're like, I want to do that. Were they stand-up or Python or a little bit of everybody?
No, it was really. I love Python. I got into Python really. It's funny as somebody who's from like the middle of Massachusetts. I had a very sophisticated sense of humor right out of the gate. I had my best friend as a child, who I'm still very good friends with, a guy named Al Anderson, lived right across the street from me. He was 2 years older than I was. And he got me into Monty Python when I was about 10, because it was on PBS.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I get this. And nobody else had any idea what we were talking about. But in terms of, and I was coming of age during the late 70s stand-up comedy boom of the original Saturday Night Live and Steve Martin and all of that stuff. In terms of as I got closer to doing stand-up comedy, George Carlin was the guy that I was like, oh, I can do that version of this, you know.
Yeah.
To look at it as like to be a musician, it's like he kind of plays the kind of music I think I can play. But I had a bigger admiration for people that I was more like an overt fan of stuff that I didn't think I could do. Like I was a giant Pee Wee Herman fan, because it was like I can't approach that. Like that's completely out of my kin. So I loved stuff that was not like what I did.
Right. Well,
it would make me anxious. Like I watched George Carlin, I would get anxious because like, I should have thought of that. I should have thought of that.
Yeah. For me, the absurdist, like Steve Martin was absolute absurdism.
Right.
As was Python, which is what I gravitated to. But for me, Carlin was like that guy. Like he's like a history sociology class. Yeah. You know, and just amazing. But I mean, that was nice when we grew up. There was TV. And at radio, I listened to old radio comics. You used to get albums of all the old radio stuff.
Yeah. As I get older, and I really got into Bob and Ray.
Oh my God!
I was going to say it's East Coast thing. Yeah.
I grew up until I was 11 in New York and listened to Bob and Ray on WOR.
I have so many CDs of Bob and Ray, and I actually think I got into them. I think I saw Bob and Ray, Jane, Lorraine, and Gilda, which was a special on SNL.
Right.
And then here's an East Coast reference. They're mentioned in an NRBQ song. If you're familiar with NRBQ, like the greatest bar band in the world they're from Massachusetts, but they're.
I mean, I know what an RBQ is. That's
it stands for the New Rhythm and Blues Quartet. And they're big, and they're mentioned in the song. And then as I get older, what I love about them, and I appreciated this later, they would go on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson,
right?
And boom,
yes,
yeah,
they would, and except for Carson, who would die. And watching it now, he's laughing. He's laughing at how little they care,
right?
Yeah,
that they're bombing,
right?
It's like he was like a comedian's comedian in the sense that he really admired people that took chances and went out on a limb, and he knew, like, especially when you're doing bits like Bob and Ray, or if you do like I do, like if you do like long 7-8 minute chunks. You start it, you're done. You're in there for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no bailing.
Committed.
And if they don't like it, you're in it. And he would just piss himself at these guys like, nope, we're going all the way to the end on this.
Well, that's where I learned about them, was watching Carson, and to me they're like the John Cage of comedy. Like it was so underplayed, and you're like, wait. Okay, all right, and that was that was not a big laugh getter for me as a kid. But then you sort of realize it's like people playing jazz, where you're like, oh, okay, it's not about big swing, it's like the subtle stuff. Yeah. And
when once you like get, once you understand comedy and their pacing and it's just, it is like jazz. It's like you got to really. It could be that they're just for comedians, but that's fine because I am.
In some ways, maybe, yeah. I mean, or the Midwest. I always thought, they play in the Midwest and the East Coast because
I would and this is the thing that you get with Python. where you don't even know what the reference is, but you're still laughing at it.
Right.
Like they did a parody of the Arthur Godfrey show, and I didn't even know what the Arthur Godfrey show was. They did a parody of the Army McCarthy hearings, which is about a guy wanting to put up a fence for a retaining wall.
Yeah,
Just
they
amazing.
definitely delighted in subtlety.
Yeah, but I'm a huge fan of just the audio. Like my podcast has no visual component still, and I still listen to three of my favorite like radio shows that I still listen to was Joe Frank.
Sure.
I remember In the Dark.
Work in progress too. Yeah.
Yeah. Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, which I'll still listen to.
Absolutely.
And there was Phil Hendry.
Phil Hendry.
Phil Hendry
connects directly with Art Bell.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Literally.
And I will often put on an old Art Bell only if I'm driving at night a long distance. Nothing beats.
I have several full Art Bell shows on my iTunes.
Yeah.
Just to have them.
And you forget just how big of a deal Y2K was.
Yeah.
Planes are going to be falling out of the sky. We'll find out.
Well, and more. My favorite, what I loved about Art Bell was he would let anyone on. I remember the guy who, made a time machine out of bamboo and gems and some chewing gum, and it was the guy was dead serious, and Art just let him, interesting.
Pure improviser. Yes, and all
Yes,
the
and
way.
yes, exactly. You could say, and I stick the bamboo in my ears and I tune into the other frequency and I travel. And he's like, that's fascinating. So the bamboo, is it green or has it been tried? He never went, that's fucking nuts. You're a lunatic.
Remember shower radios?
Yes.
Hang in your shower. I remember specifically coming home late. I remember it was when I lived behind the Laugh Factory, like the first level of Laurel Canyon.
Oh, wow.
In this big house with a bunch of people. It was a funny story of that house. Anyway, I had a big walk-in shower radio. I turned on the shower radio, and this is exactly what I heard when I turned it on. Sir, I'm not saying you're not the Antichrist, but we had the Antichrist hotline open last night, and we had 33 calls.
That's fantastic. All deadpan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a time traveler from the Andromeda Galaxy. I currently work at a photomat. Go ahead.
And what would you like to tell my listeners?
And he had really weird taste in music. Like he was.
Oh yeah, Crystal Gale.
Yeah, it was like ELO, Crystal Gale.
ELO, that's right. Well, in that way, he was like Bob and Ray. Sometimes it was completely nonsensical, and you just played it deadpan and went along with it. Except as the listener, you knew this is not, not even Phil Hendry. This is actually real.
And the Phil Hendry parody was so close.
Right.
It was almost too close to be safe.
General Johnson Jameson Human Waste Chili Maker.
Oh my God. So here we are with General Jameson, and I see you have the bowl in your hand.
Seasoned to taste, and you have delicious.
And you have a delicious bowl of chili. Oh my God!
I did an episode of Joe Frank, Joe Frank's in the Dark, and I went in and watched Phil Hendry do his show once.
Oh, that's awesome!
And it was that's like what I mean, like. This is a grandiose analogy, but it is like watching Hendrix play guitar. It's like normal human beings can't do this.
Right, Robin Williams for 45 minutes to an hour doing 27.
It's like whatever frequency you tuned into. It's like It is like what he does is like surfing. He just lets go and rolls with it. Crazy to watch.
Personality syndrome that he figured out how to make.
And the technical ability. I mean, you swear he's talking.
You swear you hear him talking against himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you hear them talking at the same time.
No, I've never seen him live. Just saw a video of him doing a show, and you're like, that.
Yeah, it's so amazing. But yeah, I love that sort of audio theater. It's really
Well, it's like
great.
watching Michael Winslow do Led Zeppelin. Have you seen Michael Winslow do what is it, A Whole Lot of Love, and where he does the guitar and the singing? Oh,
I've not, but I was with Bob Goldthwait all morning, so my Police Academy bona fides are still intact.
Oh, he's holding the mic up and he's going, and then he starts singing exactly like, and you're like, what the fuck? He did it on Fallon, I think you can see it. Anyway, okay,
and
so
Michael Winslow is the guy in Spaceballs who's combing the desert.
Yes, exactly.
No, not combing the desert.
No,
he's monitoring the jammed transmission.
Yeah, doing
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Combing the desert is what's his name from Voyager.
Oh right, yes.
Tim.
No,
not the guy who played Tuvok.
Yes, the guy who played Tuvok, but it's not Tim.
No, Tim.
Oh, Tim Russ.
Tim Russ, yeah.
Shows you what I know. Shows what I know.
Okay, so you're doing
old guys remembering names.
It's Tim. So you're in San Francisco doing stand-up.
Yep.
Right. And then you moved to LA, you said, and living.
You go to Paris, France, and
I go to France. I moved to Los Angeles in 1989.
And when did you start writing on The Simpsons? Was that soon after, or
no? That was 11 years later. 11 short years later. No, what happened is, I came down to LA and I was doing a lot of stand-up, and what happened was I was very good friends with a guy named Kevin Rooney, who was a really brilliant stand-up, and we were very close. And I was just a kid. I was 21, 22, but Kevin, we were very good friends, and Kevin I was hanging out with him all the time. So Kevin's friends became my friends, and that was Jerry Seinfeld, Jay Leno, Larry Miller, Bill Maher, and all those guys. That was Kevin's class. Yeah. My friends didn't live here yet. The people that I knew, Jeanine Garofalo, David Cross, and all those people, they hadn't moved to LA yet. So when they moved, I had my feet in both camps.
Sure.
But
like the Colossus astride the great river of comedy.
Exactly. Both groups felt I belonged to the other one. But what happened was that was around in the early 90s. The comedy boom of the 80s had started to putrefy.
Right.
And I remember Jeanine Garofalo and I went to an Elvis Costello concert at the Universal Amphitheater, now Hogwarts. And we were looking at all the people in the audience going like, why aren't these people in comedy clubs?
Right.
Our fans are not in comedy clubs. They've been chased out of clubs with a stick.
Right.
So we was like, we have to find where our fans are. And we started doing shows at this place called Big and Tall Books on Beverly Boulevard, which was a hipster bookstore.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the birth of what became the alternative comedy scene.
Like Largo, and
Yeah, that was the start of it. It went from Big and Tall Books to the Groundlings to Luna Park. And at Luna Park, we would do these shows every Sunday called Uncabaret.
Yes.
And that's where George Meyer would go to Uncabaret every week. He he liked what I did. He also, I also knew him. He knew my girlfriend at the time, later my wife, and he was the one that eventually recommended me to go on to The Simpsons. So that's nice. How I get that.
So was that your first writing gig then? Official writing gig?
No, I had a lot of pilots. As I like to say, I've had my hand in more failed pilots than an Air Force proctologist. But I had a bunch of pilots, and then finally, they sit you down with a writer, and he's going to watch your stand up, and you're going to hang out for a week, and then they're going to write a pilot. And I had 4 or 5 of those. And a lot of Linwood Boomer, who went on to create Malcolm in the Middle, he did one. Jace Richdale, who was a Simpsons writer, he did one. And
that was the MO those days. Get a stand up, work with them.
Well, everybody wanted to do Seinfeld was just getting going.
Right.
It was still the Seinfeld Chronicles, but they wanted that.
That was the shape.
Yeah. And eventually I said, I want to write one for myself. I just want to write one. And I wrote one called World on a String. It was sort of like a combination of Seinfeld and Pee-wee's Playhouse. It was like a traditional sitcom in a surreal environment. And it got made. It didn't get to series. It came close, but it did get made. And I found that I really enjoyed the writing process a lot more than I thought it would.
Can one see that on YouTube or anything, or no?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Heat Vision and Jack. Heat Vision Jack is from that same era.
Yeah, I was there. I was there for all. I was there.
Yeah, that's why I was. But I know you can see that on YouTube because
You might be. It's called World on a String, and I wrote it with Jay Kogan, the Simpsons writer, son of Arnie Kogan from Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
And I found that I really enjoyed the writing process, and the reason I got into comedy to begin with, when I was younger, I wanted to act in horror movies. That's all I wanted to do.
Hence your Vincent Price impression.
Yeah, but I just wanted to be like I was a famous monsters kid, and I was always much more of a monster movie Star Trek guy than I was a comedy guy.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, I'll become. This was literally my thinking. Because I could do stand-up comedy kind of effortlessly, and I was like, I'll do this, and I'll become so famous that they'll have to let me write a movie that I can be in.
Right.
And it was the most backwards ass way of becoming a writer. It was like, I want to be a pastry chef. And if I'm elected to the United States Senate, they'll have to let me bake anything I want. It was so backwards, but it eventually worked exactly to that. Yeah, I just wanted to act in genre stuff. So I thought, well, I'll write it. And I found I enjoyed writing it just as much. And all my stuff that I write, by and large, is kind of hybrid.
Yeah, the show you did with Janet Varney.
Yeah, Stand Against
Evil, which I loved, is exactly. But I mean, horror's always had a comedy vibe to it. I mean, all the way back to Abbott and Costello, but also camp horror is so popular, like Freddy Krueger, all that. There's a level of camp.
As I said in every pitch meeting for Stand Against Evil, is screaming and laughing are cousins. They're involuntary reflexes that release tension.
As a director, comedy and horror are the same model. It's just one you go for a laugh and one you go for a scream.
Yeah, and the language is the same. Gag.
Exactly.
It's what's the gag, and it's so funny because when we did Stand Against Evil, I had this rule, and it was the American Werewolf in London rule, which was the people are funny because they don't know they're in a horror show.
Right.
And they just behave normally. They don't even have to behave that arch. If they just behave and react normally, that's the work. And the monsters can't know they're in a comedy. We play the monsters straight as a heart attack, and the people act normal, and there's your show. And that was my hard and fast rule. And then What We Do in the Shadows came on and proved that my rule meant nothing.
Different, I think, potato, different flavor. Yeah. But I love but also Shadows. I mean, you had a great cast. I got to work.
I love that show.
John McGinley.
Yep.
Yeah.
John.
I got to work with him one day. We did a Muppet thing with this cast of Scrubs, and
great.
He was. I thought he was doing a bit, but this is what I'm asking. He was very much. Are we done? How much longer? When are we going to be done? He was like.
No, that wasn't a bit.
It didn't seem like it in the least. So that character that he plays is kind of close to the bone.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. I don't believe this bullshit. Yeah.
The premise of the show was quite simple. It was, what if you did the X-Files, but instead of Gillian Anderson being paired with David Duchovny, she's paired with my dad.
Yes.
Right.
And then to just make it look a little more like, a little less like the X-Files, because we had a budget, I just sort of put a little Dark Shadows in there and set it in a haunted town in New England.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I loved it. I love Janet Varney. I met her.
She's great.
She's and McKinley was great. The whole cast was great. Yeah, really loved.
Yeah, it was really fun. I would have loved to have done more, but they thought 3 seasons. They have the algorithm now. We know that next year less people will watch.
Right.
Well, because
So
the algorithm says
let's
that.
just avoid it altogether.
Well, they did. They replaced it with a show that basically destroyed the network.
Yeah.
Really? The network geniuses didn't.
They replaced it with the show. It was a great. I never saw the show. It was a great idea. It was called Sherman Showcase, and it was basically behind the scenes at American Bandstand. But it cost a lot, and less people watched it. And basically, put the network out.
So wait, was it a real reality show or a fake reality show?
No, it was a fake behind the scenes at American Bandstand. Great idea. I've never seen it. It could have been a brilliant show. I'm not speaking ill of it. But,
right? Yeah. No.
It didn't do.
Well,
Stan, because it was a horror show, it had a great fan base. It was a great
kind
of a built-in fan base.
It's weird because they're very aware that horror and comedy and that kind of crossover has a huge fan base and a huge, devout fan base that will buy.
Yeah, they show up. They come back.
Yeah. And they still kill. We did a show, Christine McConnell, which she was a maker, and we kind of wrapped up Munster's Addams Family kind of show around her. And we got like something, I think they said that you have this Netflix, and we made 6 episodes. You had like 11 million unique viewers. And they're only
baker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like crazy pretty?
Yes. Yeah. Stunningly pretty. So much so that some people think she's trans. And she's not, but she's 6 feet tall. And
that doesn't make sense at all.
Well,
she's so beautiful.
So pretty. Well, because they work at it, I guess. Anyway. She's 6 feet tall, amazing, insanely talented. And so we wrapped a show around her. And their only question was afterwards, can you do it for less money? And we did it for nothing. But that's the thing is you get a diehard fan base and they're like, yeah, it's a lot for a cooking show. And it's like, it's not a cooking show.
Yeah. Is she still, what was this?
2018. Oh. We did 6 episodes. They asked, can we do it cheaper? And then she, rightly and smartly so, went, screw that. Her deal was terrible, too. I heard later that, like, her manager was getting on the classic thing.
She must be married to a billionaire.
No. She's making the money. What she did, she opened a Patreon. So that, she used that to slingshot a Patreon. And she makes something like, don't quote me because I didn't hear it from her, but I heard it from mutual friends who work together, something like $85,000 a month. And what she did was she bought, an old Victorian in upstate New York and is turning it into her version of an old spooky Victorian. And so the house is a write-off. She shoots it just with her husband. Her husband was like a lovely guy, but not at all showbiz related. But I think he shoots it and does the music. She edits it, writes it, acts in it, and just cranking out what she does. Yeah. So she kind of hacked that weird code. So more power to her. She deserves every dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a tough. It is weird. I mean, and Blumhouse has proved that you can make millions by making fun, low budget. His stuff isn't so funny,
right?
But it is a world that it's also more open to newcomers. You don't have to have.
Yeah, I mean, I would. To me, it's sort of the only kind of culture I've ever belonged to. I'm much more a part of that culture than comedy culture, really. I mean, like my friends are all.
You have a foot in both worlds. I mean,
I do have a foot in both worlds. Yeah, I do, but I don't like hang out at.
But it's not his foot,
right?
If I'm not working,
right,
I don't go to comedy clubs, but I will go. It's like there's one I feel. One is work and one is life.
Right. Oh, interesting. So okay, rolling. I guess it was before, or during the time you were doing Stan. When did Hanging with Dr. Z come about? Because that's such a great left turn and, the world nobody mind. Let's take a well-known...
Speaking of beards...
it's not really a left turn, is it?
No, it's a natural level. It was originally way back in 1992.
Oh, wow.
I was a writer on the Ben Stiller Show, and I'd written a sketch for Planet of the Apes, the musical. And it was not what ended up on The Simpsons, and I had nothing to do with what was on The Simpsons.
Right.
But it was before that, and it was basically like when Hamilton comes to town, they have the commercial coming to the Hamilton Theater. It's Hamilton, and it's
Right.
4 or 5 seats. That's what it was, and it was Planet of the Apes the musical, and I did it because I wanted to get somebody to do the makeup, and I wanted to wear the makeup and do it. And then because we had no budget, we had to come up with another sketch that we could shoot with everything. It's
Right.
like how do so. For the second act of the show, it would have been from the producers of Planet of the Apes, the musical. Hal Holbrook is Dr. Zaius as Mark Twain.
That's fantastic.
And then we got canceled before we got to make it.
Ah.
And 10 years go by, and I'm talking to John Hodgman, who's doing an internet competition about Dr. Zaius doing Mark Twain because he found a photo of Maurice Evans reading Mark Twain's biography on the set of the movie. And I said, we were just talking about something unrelated. And I said, oh, that's funny. I wrote that sketch 10 years ago. And he said, do you want to do it at Sketchfest up in San Francisco? And originally I would say like, no, that just sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I'm super good friends with Greg Nicotero and all the KNB guys. So I said, like, let me make a phone call. And it was literally, I was very, it was really great that my life was at this point where I could just really, I just call them up and it was like, hey, Greg, do you have somebody over there that I can pay to go to San Francisco and do a Dr. Zaius makeup on me? And, we'll pay him, we'll put him up and everything. Hang on a minute. Yeah, sure, Andy will do it. I mean, that was the phone call.
Yeah, it's like calling for a babysitter.
Yeah, no, that was it. It was just like
Right. Was it Andy Clement? No.
Andy Schoenberg.
Oh, Andy Schoenberg, sure.
Yeah, and it was like, and that was it. And I was like, so we did it, and you can see that on YouTube. It was Dr. Zaius doing Mark Twain tonight, and then somebody else said like,
and then Val Kilmer stole your idea.
Yes, he did. And then he said, and plus I played Jim Morrison on the Ben Stiller show, so we stole from each other a lot. And then I did another. I hosted like a political benefit as Zaius, and then he was in an Elvis suit. We called him Zelvis. And then I went on. Ben Mankiewicz saw it, and he said, "Could we interview you as Dr. Zaius for a Fathom event for TCM, which was Planet of the Apes?"
Right.
And so we flew down to Atlanta, and we did it. And that was really where the character of Dr. Z sort of came from,
right.
Where he was just like Orson. It was Orson Welles on Merv Griffin.
Right.
Like
exactly.
it's just name dropping. He knows everybody.
Or Cavett, Dick Cavett. It kind of reminds me.
Right. He doesn't know anybody that isn't in the business.
No, I had dinner with Hitler, and I didn't think much of him at all.
Yes.
So has Fox ever come after you or no? They're like
no, they have it's basically at this point it's like
parody. You're in parody.
Yeah, well, it's parody, and I'm not making it. It's like a Star Wars fan film. Don't get rich, and we'll leave you alone.
You're the only Planet of the Apes fan film in existence.
But what's interesting is because we tried to sell it. We produce it ourselves. During COVID, it became the talk show, and we still do.
Yeah.
I'm currently booking the September show at Dynasty Typing. But we're putting it. We're putting it together, and we were taking it to different places, and their whole thing is basically don't get rich, and we're like, no problem. But during when we did the first episode of the talk show version, I basically said, and Janet Varney was the first guest because I knew I needed somebody that I felt very comfortable with.
Right.
And I said, it's basically between two ferns and I'm an ape. But outside of that, it's the same show. Right. And so Janet did what she would do on Between Two Ferns, which was be kind of like passive aggressive. And then I stopped it like 2 minutes in. I was like, this doesn't work because that's not my personality. Right. And then Rob Cohen, who directed it, basically said, no, you're Sammy.
Right.
You're Sammy Davis Jr. And it was like, it's the reverse of Between Two Ferns.
Right.
You're
Right.
the only guest I want. You're my favorite person on earth.
You're Merv Griffin, like, ooh, fascinating. You're amazing.
That's it. Yeah, and then it was done. The character was finished.
Nice.
It was just like, everything is great. I couldn't love you more. I don't. And that was it.
Just like Jiminy Glick, except he has that cutting edge.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, Martin is amazing at complimenting you as an insult or insulting you.
Well, Jiminy's as mean as Marty can be.
That's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. What's funny is the few times I were the nicest, like Rickles, like the nicest guy when he's not on camera.
Yeah.
But oh my God, just the anger he must carry.
Every comedian. Yeah. Rickles I was talking about Rickles today with Mr. Goldthwait, how there's a story that Bob Newhart and Don Rickles were best friends.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because their wives were best friends, and so they ended up becoming very close. But their wives knew each other first, and Don's wife. Bob Newhart's wife had never seen Don Rickles on stage.
Okay.
And so they're going to go see Don live. And he says, like, to his wife, now, the Don on stage is not the Don we know
Real life. Yes.
Yeah.
Real life. And literally, he walks out on stage. He goes, "Oh, right in the front row, Bob Newhart and his hooker wife." Like, he just goes right into it.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. He did like everyone in the '90s did a bit on our Muppet thing, and we had him. Pat Verone.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah. So Pat was one of our writers, and he bought like 10 hockey pucks and had Don sign them. So I have a Don Rickles signed hockey puck, but he did his bit, and then that was scripted, and then he basically destroyed Brian Henson.
Sure.
He was the kid, and Brian didn't know.
I know Brian.
Brian, but he didn't know Rickles. He grew up in London mostly and didn't watch comedy.
Right.
Not a fan. He kind of knew the name, but he didn't know his shtick. And so he's tearing Brian a new one, just saying, "Oh yeah, your dad got your thing," and whatever doing, and because he'd been so kind. And Brian was like, "Wow," he was kind of. What did I say? And he didn't no. Because then afterwards, Don was like hugging us, going, "Oh my God, you guys are so nice. You're like the nicest people. Like you." Yeah. It really is it's like Godfrey. It's not the guy. Yeah.
Goldthwait was telling me they're in the movie Scrooged. And,
oh right.
Don is just riding him into the dirt. And then when they're alone, he's like, "Do you have somebody that takes care of your money? Are you good with your money? Do you need somebody?" Yeah. And Don was the reverse of Jerry Lewis, where on stage, Don was an assassin, and then off stage, he was a teddy bear.
Right.
Whereas Jerry Lewis on stage was like a little kid, and off stage would cut your eyes out. There was a friend of mine told me a story about Rickles. My friend is he's friends with he's a civilian, not a civilian, he's a writer. He's not famous. He's friends with a very famous person. And they call up and they go, "We're going to go have dinner. It's going to be me and my wife, Don Rickles, and his wife, and you and your wife." And my friend's wife is Japanese. And they go to dinner, and they're all sitting there, and everything's fine. And then finally, in the middle of the dinner, Don just looks at my friend's wife and goes, "You getting everything down there, Ching Chong Charlie?"
Jesus.
Oh my God.
And you say that nowadays. Wow.
No, it's just but it's just it's so funny because you'd see him on these things where it was just like he wasn't even saying stuff that made any sense.
Oh yeah.
But it was just a run. It was just a rhythm. I remember once on Letterman, him talking to Paul Schaefer. Goes, "Paul's Canadian. Paul, why don't you go home and put some skates on your face?" And Letterman, for whatever reason, just wouldn't let it go, and he kept going. Now, Don, why would he put skates on his face? I don't understand. Just kept going. Now, do you know, you worked with Henson a lot. Do you know, have you ever heard of a project called Handmade Video?
Yeah.
I was one of the guys.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Again, another reason why our Venn diagram is almost.
Yeah. I think it was the last project he did because he died about 10 days after we wrapped.
He and I just
Jim,
finished.
not the.
Jim, yeah. We had just finished on my second round of designs for dinosaurs.
Uh-huh.
And he died. Literally had lunch with him and hung out with him on a Friday. He died on a Monday or Tuesday night. And
Yeah,
yes,
I
knew about
I
that,
had
maybe.
dinner at the house in Malibu right around that time.
Yeah, it would have to, like a week earlier or something, because that's when he had 3 places: London, New York, and LA. The Malibu house, when Lisa was dating Sam.
So and she had an autograph. He had a Walt Disney signed drawing of Mickey Mouse on the wall. That was it.
Yeah, and I think
he was not thrilled with that sale. I don't think.
Well, it didn't. He was not at the time. Yeah, it was not going well. Well, Katzenberg. I mean, talk about corporate. Different corporate cultures. Disney. I mean, there was the famous meeting where Jim essentially was talking to Katzenberg and all the other 7 more the business. No, but I think Eisner wasn't in there. It was Katzenberg running the meeting with all the Disney lawyers and the Henson folks. And Jim says, I just want a fair deal for everyone. And Katzenberg. No, I wasn't there, but I know the people who were. Katzenberg said, "Get out of the 70s, Jim. Get out of the 60s, Jim. It's our meals, the Israeli armies. For every one of ours, we take 10 of theirs." And he's like,
and people don't understand that he was a hippie.
Yeah.
Well, he was a beatnik. He was a beatnik.
That's interesting.
Because he wasn't free love. He was like, let's think. He was very cerebral. I mean, I worked with him for the last 5 years and went on trips with him and got to know him really well. We were friends, as well as working with him. What's that?
He was a lovely guy I spent 2 weeks with him.
Amazing. But he was a beatnik. And if you look at his early films and kind of even him, he had like the turtlenecks and the beard.
Yeah.
And very much a beatnik. For all the good, none of the shade of that and all the good. But anyway, I did not. You were the handmade films thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was me, Sean Masterson, and Jordan Brady. We were the 3 guys traveling around with cameras.
Yeah, that was that's it. He loved experimental, weird stuff.
Yeah.
And the Muppets, well, Sesame Street was the blessing and the curse. And the Muppets sort of came out of that. And he always, one of the things that drives me nuts about what Disney's done with the Muppets is they made them safe. And Frank Oz is on camera saying, he loves the Muppet guys and the people there, but Disney, they're anarchy. They're not safe. They're dangerous. And they're like, oh no, we've got to make it safe for, Christians and children under the age of 8. And it's just not fun to work for them or write for them anymore because
that's true. They are anarchy. That's true.
They're supposed to be. I mean, and they all kind of hate themselves in a very subtle.
Yeah, they're dark. I mean, Kermit. There's a lot of Kermits. I mean, we just saw the Muppet movie again for the first time forever, and there's a lot of dark. Kermit goes through some dark stuff in that movie.
Yeah, and well, we did it in. I did my first Muppet movie I directed was Very Merry Muppet Christmas, which is basically It's a Wonderful Life. And Kermit, the whole thing was, how does he commit suicide? So he does it passively, sits on a park bench and allows himself to freeze. But yeah, anyway, enough about that. So what do you got going now?
Well, we're doing, so I'm waiting on a couple of things. I'm writing a movie. I'm pitching an animated show. We're doing more Dr. Z live. I have my podcast, The Dana Gould Hour, and we're a couple of Dr. Z things in the offing, and waiting to see which one of these other things. And then I was a writer on the show Ted with Seth MacFarlane, and that second season is coming. So I've had a really fun period where I just, I have enough stuff going that I can kind of get up and work on something a little different every day, and it kind of rotates.
Nice. Have you played with AI at all, like fleshing out an idea, not as a writer, but like visually or something?
No, I haven't. I'm sort of afraid of it, to be completely honest.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't know how to do it. And
I'm really interested in it because all my ideas are not like it's 3 guys together and their moms are, but it's not sitcom. It's creature stuff and puppets and all that. And the biggest problem I always have is pitching is like I can't see that. I even pitched like a Pee Wee Herman kind of show about a submarine with all the different. And basically, it's an excuse to travel around and use the ocean as the. And they're like, I love it, but you got to make it. And of course, 5 years ago or 8 years ago. It's like, I can't build sets in a submarine and all these puppets. But now kind of like, well, not kind of, just with AI, you can do all that at least as a template. So it's kind of
I'm putting together just like a packet for an animated show,
right?
And what I'm doing, because I don't have any skill as a artist, is pictures of people that represent. It's like, take this guy, have Alex Toth draw him, and that's the guy.
Right. So, but are you using AI for that?
No,
he said he wasn't. Kurt, why don't you listen?
Well, no, but you said you're going to Alex Toth, who is dead.
Well, Alex Toth.
But no. In the package, I'm like going. The way I envision this character is this guy.
I got you.
You're drawn by Alex Toth. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is you could go to AI and say, "Hey, just draw this guy like Alex Toth." If you want, I'm just saying that's kind of where I'm. Do a circus clown, but is painted by Frank Rosetta or whatever.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Because I can't do that, but I can say that or type it, and then at least my pitch always is, because I have so many friends who are artists and creature makers and all that. I said, look, it's just to sell the idea, and then hire real people to do real things, not have AI.
It's scary. I have a very good friend who's a programmer at Pluto.
Yeah,
and they said. You're not laid off yet, but eventually your job will be done by AI.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Look, there's guys on YouTube every week telling everyone that, like, if you're an accountant, if you're anything except like a plumber and a fry cook, or an actual chef, fry cooks will be gone.
But somebody has to buy the product.
Yeah,
people need to have a job to have the money to buy the thing.
That's where you get into weird stuff like UBI and what do you do? I just saw a guy. Do you ever watch Tom Bilyeu, Impact Theory?
No.
Oh my God! If you want kind of the current version of Dick Cavett, really smart guy with amazing guests, but it's Impact Theory. Tom Bilyeu, really smart guy, became a billionaire by creating a protein bar, and he's very insightful. Anyway, he has these great interviews, but one of the things he was talking about was AI's as the worst it's ever going to be right now, and it's only getting better and smarter.
Yeah.
And his other thing and I think it was the guest he was talking with, was the end game for this is a utopia where no one has to work, and that terrifies everybody, because everyone's exactly what you're saying. How are you going to have a job and buy the things that we make or anyone makes if AI takes all the jobs, and nobody has the answer? It was really interesting. You're like, oh, it's either a dystopia or a utopia. It's one of the topias.
Yeah, well, the theory is no one will have to work because we'll just share the money. The way we do now.
Right.
Right.
We don't have wealth inequality now.
Right.
You can always have a utopia if there are Morlocks downstairs.
Well, the idea is that AI would be the Morlocks. And we'd be the people in Wall-E, just fat and laying in chairs going, make me a movie about penguins going to Mars. And, in 30 seconds, you're watching that movie and going, hey.
That's my fear. I'm also, it could be a generational thing, but I'm afraid of all. I'm a phobic to all of it. ChatGPT. My daughter uses ChatGPT sometimes, and I'm like, you're going to have a smooth brain if you're not careful.
We might be the last generation to chase creativity out of our own brains and inspirations and looking. I mean, books. Like, I have amassed thousands of books, and I barely look at them anymore because I'm just on the internet going, oh, I want to see, instead of going to the book about Frank Lloyd Wright architecture or various animals, I just go online. So I'm like, what do I do with all these books? I feel weird giving them up because I like having them, but I don't use them anymore because it's all.
No, I know. I mean, it's weird. I buy vinyl of stuff that I have digitally.
Yeah, right, right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, like you said, I think that's generational. Like, we might be the last or close to the last generation who goes like, I want an original idea, not what I don't want to go, hey, ChatGPT, give me an idea about, 3 turtles living in the sewer that fight like ninjas, and it gives me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, there's a theory that, well, it's just another tool. But I don't really see that in application.
Right.
It depends on which part of it. I mean, the video and the art generating is a tool. It's sort of like the classic, the old days in Photoshop, make art button. We kind of have done that. Yeah. It still needs to be curated. by a person. But that's the problem, I think, with our industry, is that the people with the money don't have taste, and they can push a button and go make a movie about penguins going to Mars, and they'll go, "Oh, it's good, looks good to my showed it to my 7-year-old. He thought it was great." And it's like, but there's no, you're not curating it. So I don't know. We live in interesting times.
Yeah, the only other aspect of it that's inevitable is the law of unintended consequences.
Right.
There'll be something negative or positive. We don't really know. It could be incorporated like everything else.
Right.
It's nothing. I mean, I understand that nothing is supposed that. The only thing that's consistent is that change is inevitable.
Right.
That's the only.
But we still get to be old. We still get to be old men who yell at clouds. I mean, that's
Well, this is the guy who coined that.
I know why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I knew who Donald Gould is. I looked him up.
This guy.
Ah!
Yeah, that's become a classic meme.
Yeah, that joke has a life of its own.
Yeah.
I don't get any extra money.
Oh, jeez. If I got extra money from half the stuff I created, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
You just wave.
Wait, what do you mean by that? You mean that this is not valuable to you, Thatcher? Is that what you mean?
Say that. Wow, you're just putting words in my mouth. And
yeah,
we're pulling in residuals like Bob Denver did on Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
Oh, all 3 repeats.
Why he did far out face nuts.
That's right. I said launch, not launch.
And the rest, it's 2 people.
It's just 2 people. Just say
I know, but
say
they were getting paid. Sherwood Schwartz was lazy. Didn't he? That was something I learned working in TV with my first TV series was, I guess, Dinosaurs, where I was a creator on it, not just a crew member. And the whole thing about writing lyrics to a theme song that nobody sings, so the producer gets half the money.
Yeah.
The theme song money, every episode through streaming, whatever, you get a check, even if the writers, the directors, the actors don't.
Yeah, we could talk to Alexander Courage about that all
day long. That's correct.
Well, that's one of the first ones, yeah.
But those are a real great set of lyrics.
Well,
I wonder if somewhere out there is like, James Bond, his name is James Bond, he wears a tuxedo and he has a curvature vest, his name is James Bond, he's James Bond.
I think if it doesn't exist, we ought to write it and record it.
That was a theory we had. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say Monty Norman gets the credit for that, but it was extensively revised by John Barry.
John Barry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole world of music is completely unfair and lies. It's all lies.
Well, we had a theory at ILM back in the day why John Williams scores were so popular, because you could put lyrics to any of them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Raiders, the Lost Ark. Oh, the Raiders, the Lost Ark. There's a man from another planet. He's a man. Yes, a Superman. I mean, they're all syncopated enough.
Don't get me started on that, Kirk, because I have written lyrics for a bunch of those.
Are the Swiss Family Robinson stuck in space, and you never know where they will land.
That show had 2 separate theme songs, and they were both fantastic.
Bangers, yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah, and I know both are grained in my head because that's all I watched.
And then there was.
Which came first?
I don't know, but they're both amazing.
No. That's season 1 and 2.
Yes, right. And then the big brass one was that's how I remember it.
Which is also amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're a family lost in space, and it just works.
Well, not a lot of people know that John Williams wrote a lot of the incidental music for Gilligan's Island as well.
Really?
Yeah. That whole that's him.
We used to do the Gilligan walking around the lagoon was do 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 do
We again at ILM we're sitting around making sculpting whatever, and we would do segue music, TV segue music for sitcom.
Sure.
Da da da. What you just did, Gilligan's Island,
Yep.
and then Happy Days was ba da 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 da. It was just a doo-wop group. I mean,
Hang on, I got one. Well, there was two. The Odd Couple. One of them was. Oh shit! They both left my head. But there was a special theme for whenever there was a plane taking off. Whenever they would go to the coast.
oh wow!
I just had it in my head, and it just went out of my head.
Odd Couple, another theme that had lyrics that no one sang.
Really?
Everywhere they go, they are known as the couple.
Oh, okay, that was it.
Yes. Yes.
I always had to end with a slow out. Da, da, da. Yeah.
It's
The Munsters. Also, the Munsters, one of the great all-time themes. It's so funny. I have a friend named Denny Tedesco who produces Hanging with Dr. Z. And his father was Tommy Tedesco, who was the lead guitarist in the Wrecking Crew. And I went into Denny's house one day. There's a guitar on the wall with all these signatures on it, and it's just everybody. And I go, "What the hell is that?" He goes, "Oh, that's my dad's guitar. Let me see. What songs did he play that guitar on? God Only Knows, Wouldn't It Be Nice? The Munsters theme." I was just like,
Wait.
Oh my God!
Which was written by Frank Marshall's dad.
Which was
the Munsters theme?
The Munsters theme.
Really?
I thought it was. Was that not Neil Hefti, or was that Adam's Family?
No. Adam's Family was Vic Mizzy.
Well,
Right.
Neil Hefti.
There's Batman.
Neil Hefti did Batman.
Oh, Batman. That's right.
Who wrote what was Frank
Odd
Marshall's
Couple.
dad's name? What was Frank Marshall's dad's name?
I can't. Marshall.
Mr. Marshall.
No.
Gary.
Yeah.
Pops Marshall.
I can't remember.
Wow, that's amazing.
But look, it's.
So Frank doesn't need to work. He can just cash those
That's
Munsters
the thing. He
checks.
never needed to work.
He could do his
That's
magic.
the sad part.
You ever see him do his magic trick? He loved doing magic tricks. Frank Marshall, not his dad.
Oh, yeah?
Magic tricks. What kind of magic tricks?
Magic. Just little sleight of hand stuff. We were on just.
When he had a subpoena,
That he probably learned from Orson freaking Welles.
I have no idea.
Because he was a PA on the other side of the wind.
You're kidding me.
No,
So he sat behind Orson Welles then.
that's funny. I see where you're going there. Ah, the French.
Wow. Well, we're not old and don't remember. I think that's the other last generation to remember TV theme song segue music.
Yeah.
I know.
For 500, Alex. Yeah, that is
I like to think that it will somehow come back. Like, there'll always be people that.
well, yeah. I mean, I like listening to
Will be
old
like the way,
radio.
the way that there are people that are still into old blues.
As long as there are Pluto streaming channels,
Mhm.
our memories will be extended.
Is there still
Yeah.
Nick? Is there still Nick at Night showing old sitcoms?
No.
Or no.
At least not sitcoms from times that we remember. They're running sitcoms from the early aughts.
From the 90s.
But it's so funny because things like I watch one of my favorite shows to watch is Perry Mason. Love Perry Mason.
Sure.
The original.
And I like them both, but the Raymond Burr one because there's 7,000 of them, and they're great, and they're pretty timely. And then the other day I watched, which I haven't seen in 30 years, maybe more, Manhattan.
Oh, right. Chris
And
Walker.
that movie, no, that's Annie Hall.
Oh, Annie Hall.
Manhattan.
Right.
Manhattan is much more aged than the average Perry Mason.
Yes.
That is this is not the world that we currently live in
Right.
at all. And I remember being, a teenager, knowing that I was supposed to like Manhattan.
Right.
And I watch it now and I'm like, all of these people are jerks. Some of them are criminal. Like there's the scene at the end of the movie where he's waiting for Mariel Hemingway to come out of school, and my wife just shouted, "Call the police!"
Yeah.
Well, Yeah.
And every character is just a self-involved douchebag. Every character in that movie. There's no plot. It's just people complaining.
It's very New York.
About their book deal, their magazine deal, their article. The Atlantic cut my article. It's just like, how did I ever like this? Who are these? What is wrong with me?
Well, which is why we did this podcast, because we want to represent that kind of energy on the podcast.
But it is so true. I remember loving this, and now I look at it and I'm like, this is awful. These people are horrible. It's like one of
they were New Yorkers. Going from LA just seemed like, oh, that's what New Yorkers are like. I'm self-obsessed.
Well, my favorite movie on Earth, Planet of the Apes. It's just like you watch that movie and you're like, Charlton Heston is an asshole.
Yeah, but he's also right.
He's right, and there's a brilliant thing, and this did not come from Rod Serling. This came from Michael Wilson, which is that he's a misanthrope, and has to defend mankind. The League, because I adapted Rod's first draft as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
He's a Thomas in that version is a standard Rod Serling mid-century liberal. Right. He's Paul Newman stumping for Eugene McCarthy. And then Heston, Michael Wilson had the idea, like, no, you're a misanthrope. You hate mankind.
He's playing John Milius.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is basically, yeah. And so that was, but also there's like a scene where he's harassing Landon. It's like, your loved ones are dead and forgotten for 20 centuries. Even if you could get back, they'd think you were something that fell out of a tree. It's like, aren't you in charge of morale? It's like Captain Kirk. We're surrounded by Klingons. Good, we deserve to die. What have we ever done? What have we ever done?
Did you read when it came out? I loved it so much. I went and got the book. Very different.
Very different.
Like, where's the cool movie?
Oh, well, that's if you're talking about the Boole book.
Yeah.
That's what Serling's script was like. It's set in a modern city, and it's his script
helicopters.
Right.
Yeah, it's very much a political thriller. It's very much 7 Days in May with apes. It's a lot
I
of.
remember as a kid, like I stopped reading after about 2 chapters. Like, this is not the movie.
This is what I wanted. Yeah, I want King Kong dressed like Fonzie, chasing Moses dressed like Tarzan,
with naked girls.
And again, there's so much. I mean, I could talk about the movie forever, but there's a couple things. One, Heston hates people. But he finally finds the perfect woman. He finally finds a woman that he can stand to be with. Hey, what do you know? She can't talk.
She can't talk.
Hey, what do you know?
She's comfortable being naked.
Yeah, it's the perfect woman. She can't talk, and she only owns a bikini.
Well, that's what I always thought. He's like, Nova, why are you don't need to wear those things.
You get out of that. Yeah. No, it is. It's like, of course. And then there was the other. It's just a banana. This is truly, no pun intended, so bananas. Is when they talk about Stewart, the astronaut that died.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he goes, "She was supposed to be the new Eve,
right?
With our hot and eager help, of course." Did she know that? I bet she thought she was the botanist.
Dana, I'm going to have to call foul on that. You're doing your act.
It's an observation that I put into it.
It comes from real life first.
It's a legit observation. The first thing we do is shoot Dodge.
Well, he makes a beautiful display.
He really does.
Oh God,
really does.
But that is one of those movies. I mean, I talk about that. That is one of those movies. The only two things that date that movie is the attitude towards women, which is pretty prehistoric, and Lucius, the hippie ape.
Yeah,
right.
Literally, they got one chimp from Dragnet, and they put him in.
Hey, now you did a panel with him, didn't you?
I interviewed him as Dr. Z, and I actually interviewed him on my podcast. He came over to my house. He came over to my house, and He's so lovely. I'm sure you both met him. I mean, he's sharp as a tack, and he's so wonderful. And
he's
he
that
did
same energy of like, hey, how's it going? I mean, he's very,
Yeah, and I'm a giant Jack Webb Dragnet nut. I actually own Jack Webb's bar set.
Wow.
Thanks to my my wife, and he did like 5 Dragnets. He was like, I was more interested in.
Wow.
And also, I live right up the street from the Wonderland School.
Right.
And he used to live right across the street, and I made a joke about the famous Wonderland murders, and he was like, "No, I was there that night. I couldn't go to work the next day. The street was full of cop cars." He was just like, "Yeah, it's really great." But he said, "Yeah, when he went."
Lou, what's his last name?
Wagner.
Wagner, that's right, Lou Wagner.
And on Dragnet, Jack Webb would say, "Don't learn your lines. Get familiar with them, but don't learn them." And then your single would be you just read off a teleprompter. Right. And he had the camera below the teleprompter because it was just everybody had that sort of everybody had the tonal, and he wanted to get out of there.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's right, ma'am. Thank you. We'll check it out.
Yeah, he wanted to get out of there.
I love the nod, the Dragnet nod, and then out.
I was once. This is a great story. So when my oldest daughter was in pre-K, I go into the parent room to wait to get her. And Lorraine Gary's grandchild was in my daughter's pre-K. And I said, I have my knowledge base. So I go like, I know you. And she goes, and I went, you're in the Marcus Nelson murders, which is the Kojak pilot. And she looked at me, she went, get out. Get out.
Stalker.
She was so, and then we became like best friends. Like we were like, because, and I was asking her all about Dragnet, and she was telling me, she did a couple, and she was saying that in the morning was all the singles.
Oh, wow.
Because Jack wasn't really very useful after lunch.
Wow.
Can't even guess.
And after lunch was all the masters. And if you look at those masters, there's a lot of Jack walking, but he's not really moving his arms.
Oh my God.
Storming in.
That was his style of I'm a wooden man who's, no emotions.
Well, he was just trying not to fall. And if they didn't have everything they needed by lunch, they'd just turn the clock back an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite Jack Webb moment is when he's hosting the party with chili spaghetti in Sunset Boulevard.
I was going to say.
Peter Green. Green.
I watched Dragnet growing up, and then I saw Sunset Boulevard like late teens. I was getting into movies, and I'm like, he's the nutty party guy. And I was like, wow. And you don't buy it at all. You're like, because you know him as, Sergeant.
Yeah, because he's there undercover.
Did you ever see the movie? I think it's called 30. It's one of his films where he plays the editor, like the night editor of a newspaper, and there's like a giant. I love him, and he's.
He was amazing.
He was a machine.
Amazing.
He was a crazy machine. Crazy machine.
And there's whole sections of Universal that owe their existence to him.
Yeah. And
he was like Sterling in a way, like a creator who was, Sterling wasn't as much.
Kind of similar.
Did he write Dragnet as well?
No, I forget the name of the guy that wrote most of them. But
okay.
He did. Linwood Boomer, who wrote one of my pilots and later created Malcolm in the Middle, was first job as a PA at Mark 7, Mark 8, whatever his production company was, and Linwood's he washed his car and whatever, and then he had to quit because he got cast as a regular on Little House on the Prairie.
Oh my God!
And he goes, so Jack goes upstairs. And this is Linwood Boomer, and he's been working there for like 2 years. And Jack pulls him aside. He goes, "Lindman, I always knew you'd break through and do well."
Wow,
Lindman.
If you freshen up my drink before you go, that would appreciate it.
But he was great. When he had an estate sale, and I was on the road, and I called my wife and I said, "You have to go. You have to." And she went and she said, "There was a line down the block to get in." but I saw 2 cops walk in, and I just walked in behind them like I was with them,
Nice.
and went right to the bar set, and we had his whiskey decanters and his crystalware and all.
Shout out to your wife, the whiskey sommelier, right? Or some,
That's right, yeah.
Samet.
Samet. Yeah, I met her
She
at
knows.
what's the whiskey bar on Sunset in like Beverly Hills? It's a
She would know. I know. I don't.
you know what I'm talking about. It's owned by
yes,
a
I do.
lovely Indian family, and they also own the
Yeah.
And so she
I
was
met her.
there. Yes, and she was there, and she's like, "I'm the whiskey sommelier or some."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samet.
And then I found out, a couple of years later, that she was your wife. I'm like, "Oh, she's delightful."
Yeah, she's great, and
Any gal knows whiskey and bourbon is a friend of mine.
and it's good because I don't drink, and it's a good thing because my house is full of it. And if I had a problem with it, it would be.
Well, I don't drink alone, and I live alone, and I rarely have friends over because my house is a mess. So yeah, I remember I started dating a girl, and her ex-husband was an alcoholic. She was very aware, and she goes, "Did you drink?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so she came over, and there's this cabinet just with like 300 bottles of bourbons and whiskeys.
Yeah.
And she goes, "I thought you said you didn't drink." No, I mean, I drink, but I'm not an alcoholic. And she goes, "Well, I mean, I've never seen someone's home with some." I said, "That's because I don't drink it."
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
That's a
I said,
good
"If I
point.
drink-"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, her ex, who was an alcoholic, she never found a bottle because he'd hide them. So look, see, and then
Oh,
I went over with logic. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to have. I remember I only say this story because I told it last night to somebody. I dated a woman before I met Kat, my wife.
oh, me too.
And I have a lot of women friends.
Yeah.
And she was like, I think you're trying to sleep with these people, and I'm not comfortable with you having so many women friends. It's like, well, the reason I have them is because I don't try to sleep with them.
Right.
If I tried to sleep with them, they wouldn't be my friend. See,
I've found that too. I have a lot of friends who are women,
yeah.
and it's only because they wouldn't sleep with me. But
I like them.
I mean, if they say no,
I like
fine,
them.
we can still be friends. But it is weird. There's that. I mean, that's our culture too. It's like I know so many guys and gals who marry, and their significant other is like, you can't have all those female or male, whatever the opposite sex is. That I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's weird. Like it's like caveman logic. I was like, nope. You see them as partners, sexual partners, so you can only hang out with them when we're all together. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I don't,
Well, I'm
there's
glad
a
we're
reason I
that
do.
progressive.
Sure.
And that way I will do it also.
Excuse me, I got a couple of friends coming over
Yeah.
for the
I
hot
will take
tub,
care of
the
it.
hot tub party.
Well,
You gotta
Roddenberry
pick
hot
this
tub
up,
party.
the Gene Roddenberry hot tub party, which I need to do more episodes of.
Absolutely.
Someday.
I think you need Vincent Price as a guest. Vincent Price as a guest.
Perhaps
I
someday
know.
that'll happen.
I wonder what that would sound like.
Well, Bill Hader and I will come on and we'll do dueling Vincent Prices.
No, I like yours better. I love
Well, it's
Hader.
funny. Bill is very generous because he always attributes it to me.
Nice.
But
But
I'm doing a friend of mine from San Francisco. I'm doing there's a guy who's literally, his name is Tom Sawyer, and he ran Cobb's Comedy Club. He ran a comedy
Cobb's,
club
yeah.
in San Francisco. Yeah, he owns Cobb's, but he's a brilliant mimic, and I'm just doing his Vincent Price.
Well, what you did, because Hader
Bill's
does
doing
the,
me doing Tom.
Save your witty asides for your windowless bars.
Yeah,
yes, but he does that, but you do the oohs, like when he goes
Yeah.
down, like,
the two voices. I
The two
understand that your car broke down. I insist that you stay here. Don't talk to any of the paintings.
But you get both voices, and that's what's like. That's why I think Hader just does the yes, welcome that.
Yes, man.
But you do the ooh, which I
But
love.
Hader can do like
No, he's
Paul Giamatti. Like
Yeah.
he does like a brilliant like stuff I can't even.
Giamatti.
Yeah,
Well,
like, I can't even think about it.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti, the back of the throat, kind of. I don't know. I was.
I
Doing
can't
it.
even do it. I mean, his is flawless. I didn't even know.
He's amazing. There's another guy on who's his whole thing is he's like an Instagram mimic, which I don't understand how that's a career. Bill Meskimen or Jim Meskimen.
Yeah.
An amazing. He does like 40 voices, and 37 of them are like amazing. But I just saw him in one commercial for something where he's just being him, but I guess it's launching him.
I think it might have. I think I think I might have met him. I think he did a
If you
voice
look on
on-
Instagram, he's remarkable, and it's one of those things. I do some decent impressions, but I'm like, it's not a career anymore. I mean, you know.
Well, I think they can also do it. I think they can do it with AI now.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not. There's no value to it except to be an Instagram channel where people go.
Yes, have Vincent Price read Penthouse Forum from 1979.
Right.
As a student at a small Northeastern university, I never imagined this would happen to me.
Oh my God.
All right,
Dana.
I said I would help you with the test if you became my sex slave, and naturally she said yes. Naturally, sure, of course she would say yes. Sure.
But do you remember his character name in the Brady Bunch?
No, but since you said that, hang on one second. I excuse myself for 12 seconds, not even.
You have the tiki, don't you?
he has a guitar signed by every member of the band.
Right here on my bookshelf, baby.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. Are you
That's
a fan
awesome.
of tiki? Or just
Oh yeah, my house was made in 1966, so it's all decorated to that end. But yeah, I just know the famous line, "Thank you, Greg, you saved my beans."
That's right.
I do not remember that. I am impressed.
That's the end of the episode when Greg saves his beans.
Yeah.
Dr. Gold
Great
put in the
season beans.
I like how he would open the envelope. Dr. Gold put in the bikini bombs. Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I love that movie because it's so. Well, I love all the beach blanket movies because they're just dumb and fun. You're like,
Yeah, I love them too, and they make me feel like it's summer vacation.
yes,
You know,
exactly. You're at home, and adults or teenagers seem kooky and fun, but Eric Von Zipper, the guy whose son directed the Santa Claus movie,
Mike Lembeck, Harvey Lembeck. His name is Michael.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harvey Lembeck to me was like, I mean, he's a Muppet, right? And before the Muppets existed. And I tried for years to get him to do a beach blanket movie where, Muppets Go Hawaiian. It writes itself.
Oh, yeah, what a great idea. Yeah.
And get someone like Jack Black or somebody to be the Eric Von Zipper. Well, you don't have to parody exactly. Yeah. And they just looked at me like I had two heads and like, well, okay. Then you do your clever ideas, won't you?
But did they ever want to do like the old dark house?
I wrote 3 like Halloween-y haunted mansion things with them for them, and none of them got made. And then they finally, when Disney bought them, they did Muppet Haunted Mansion, which I got to write. It was a huge haunted mansion.
They should have like a Disney like a Muppet slasher movie, but it is just stuffing. But it's just like egregious stuffing.
Well, that I did not write because I said, how are you going to do that? And they did hire a Muppet guy who works on Sesame Street, funnily enough, to write the pair. They like horror movies aren't like the old dark house anymore. They're like Freddy Krueger. So he tried to write a murderous, Muppet thing. And it just doesn't work.
People still know about haunted houses.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
we're sort of we're doing a Muppet Mulholland Drive.
Nice.
Yes. There you go.
It's Janet and Piggy and their roommates, but then they're not. They're other people that look like them.
I think it writes itself.
It writes itself.
And then it mails itself to Russia.
And then it puts the lotion on its skin.
Yeah, there's the ChatGPT. Muppet Mulholland Drive.
Right, yeah. Or write a Muppet Silence of the Lambs. Gonzo has. Well, as a Muppet writer, I get those all the time. There was a big thing going around. People were writing because Jason Segel did it. And that's how the Muppets got made in whatever the mid-2012. And so people were writing. One guy I know wrote an entire Muppet version of Muppet Gatsby, The Great Gatsby. And he sent it to me. I said, great. I don't know I'm happy to read it and tell you, inside Muppet stuff, but they'll never make it.
No.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Kids lining up around the block.
Kids love The Great Gatsby.
I always tried to get them to do a genre picture, a spy movie, a Western movie, Old Dark House, kind of genres like Treasure Island was and Christmas Carol. But they've got better ideas.
Yeah, I could see a Western.
Did you ever see Destry Rides Again?
I know it.
Well, the idea is that Kermit is the sheriff who won't use a gun. He
Right.
and again, it writes itself. You know, you
Yeah.
populate the town, and I pitched it, and they just said, we're not interested in doing those kind of films. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah, good. All right, awesome.
I wish you all the best.
Right.
Anyway, well,
gentlemen, I'm gonna have to pull the plug on this one because we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Dana, thank you. It's nice to finally hang with Mr.
Yeah.
G.
We'll have to do it in real life.
Yes.
This one I'll see in 48 hours.
Yes.
Oh, is there something you'd like to tell us, boys?
What kind of trouble can two hot dudes get into down in New Orleans?
Well, I don't know, but we can find some trouble too.
The last time I was in New Orleans, I was the only sober person at a wedding and the only one to end up in the emergency room.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let's see if we can make that happen again.
Yeah, because a door slammed on my finger and I gashed it open and I had to get stitches on my finger. And I was
Wow. You and Harrison Ford.
Yes.
On your
But it wasn't that bad. But I walked into the emergency room on a Friday or Saturday night in New Orleans, sober as a judge with a health insurance card. And I was like a Martian to those people.
Yeah. What are you?
I was in and out of there in like 25 minutes.
Wow.
Were you trying to finger an alligator? Nope. Holding a firecracker? Nope.
Literally, and I was one of the only people there not in handcuffs. I was just, it was a Saturday night in New Orleans. I was like, hi, I was at an event and I cut my finger. And they're like, are you sober? I'm like, yeah. Oh, come with me.
Guys, you got to see this guy.
Exactly. That's what it was like.
Wow.
Wait, you have all your teeth?
Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, that's a story for another episode.
That's another time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us on this lovely afternoon. And we hope to see you all again very soon.
Great Wally Cox.
Thank you. All finished, sir.
Mrs.
Thanks, Shine Boy. You're humble and lovable.
Well,
All
I'm
right.
working on my Bruce Dern. Okay, then. All right, then. We'll do it again. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right.
Well, have you seen Jim Carrey where his face becomes Bruce Stern and he goes to the mouth?
Yeah.
Thing? Like, yeah.
And Rick Overton does a freakishly good.
Yes. Have you seen
Bruce
Rick
Stern.
lately? I haven't seen him in
I
years.
did. I saw Rick at the hardware store last
I
week.
love it. I used to see him
Wow.
in model kit.
Yeah, Kidcraft all the time.
Yes.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
I found a recording I made of Mystery Science Theater 3000 in 1990, and I found the interstitial that you and Rick Overton had done for Comedy Channel.
Bolorama? Or
Something like that, yeah.
wow.
But I'm gonna transfer it and get it to you.
Yes, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. We're gonna get this.
So there we are.
I get this one giving me a hard time.
Aw,
It's time.
There's trouble.
it's time, isn't it? It's time.
He's like,
She knows
snacks.
Awesome.
Sending
It's
you
walk.
messages.
It's walk time.
There
It's
you go.
walk time, and she knows it.
All righty.
We're going.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Dana. Appreciate it.
All right. I'll thank you, and let me know when this drops so I can.
Oh, it'll drop on Monday morning.
Okay, but I'll see you Thursday.
Indeed.
You
Thanks
bet.
a lot. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, Dick.
The Weirded Beardos are Kirk Thatcher and Darren Doctorman. Email them at theweirdedbeardos@gmail.com.